Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Season 4 for the RCI GT4 Championship. 2 rounds coming at you here at Zolder today. I'm Jesse Lee, filling in for an ailing Josh, and of course, I'm here with Tim Peck and Christian on the cameras today. Well, the first round was very interesting indeed at Imola. And a last 2 rounds today, 2 30-minute races. But before we can go forward, Tim, welcome in, first of all. Number 2, let's talk about what happened last week. 2 different winners, for starters.
Yeah, we had 2 different winners last week, and thank you for introducing me. So yeah, the first race was rather wet on track, but actually wasn't raining, so we saw a mix-up in strategies. Some people went for the dry tyres, and some people going for the wets. Obviously, the people with the dry tyres got a much better end of the stick there, and we saw Villa take the winning position at the end of that race after Rubelar had an incident which caused him to crash out. Going into the second race was completely dry, and we saw a lot more fighting on track. The top 5 crossed the line very close to each other with some absolutely beautiful racing. Led, of course, by Verstappen, followed by the 3 Aston Martins, and the BMW came 5th. Going into today at Zolder, very different kind of track, of course. Got a lot of long straights and a couple of chicanes that can catch you out here. So we're looking at some mixed performance from the BMW, and we're hoping to see some good performance out of the Porsches and the McLarens, maybe the more all-rounded cars.
Well, we were talking pre-production here today about perhaps the track, and I maybe alluded to whomever set up Season 4 was being a bit evil when they decided that maybe 40-plus GT4s around Zolder was a good idea. Well, you actually told me, well, actually, of all the tracks in ACC, Turn 1, not too terrible here, and right you are.
Yeah, so Turn 1, obviously very different to Imola, where you see a lot of crashes. This one's a lot more easier. It's just a sweeping left that you need to make sure you stay on. And on the point of the mean corners, I think if any car can handle it, it's the GT4s. They're much better at taking corners than the GT3s. They can really eat those curbs and not worry too much about being spun out. Obviously, the Maserati that we have in the mid-pack, he'll have to be a little more careful with no traction control and ABS. But other than that, I think that if any car can handle it, it's probably these GT4s.
I'd say that's a very fair assessment there. I'm curious because I have filled in on many occasions for the GT4s, but I've never been a part of a GT4 broadcast here, and I'm curious what it's going to look like. I know what a GT3 race looks like here. It's usually Calamity down into the chicanes. Will the chicanes be a major factor today, do you think?
I imagine so, especially, as I said, with the BMWs really not being able to take the curb. I know it contradicts what I said just now, but if there's any car that doesn't like the curb, it is the BMWs. Going into the mid-pack, though, the Aston Martins that looked very strong last week at Imola, I think will be coming out again very strong here. Those chicanes are going to play a massive part in who wins and who loses, and will also, I imagine, play a massive part in the qualifying as to who can put out the fastest lap. But the ones at Zolder, very tight and very bumpy, so if you hit it wrong, you're going to meet the wall, and that is not how you want to end your race.
Well, we talked about some of the different cars we should look out for, and I think you briefly mentioned it there. Does Verstappen's pace in the Chevrolet surprise you at all so far?
Yeah, Verstappen did amazingly last week. Kept it cool in race 2, even when he was taken by Rubelar in the Audi. Did manage to hold P2 for the rest of the race, and then, of course, when Rubelar had a little accident, managed to come back and take first. And in the first race as well, he was very consistent. I can't quite remember where he finished. I believe he was down in 4th somewhere, but just outside that podium, I mean, it's better than being a lot further down the pack. So in terms of consistency, you do have to give it to Verstappen, who has done an amazing job in that Chevrolet, and an unexpected car to do it in. It's not one of the ones we would have pointed out at the beginning of Imola, and he's definitely been able to prove us wrong there.
Well, out of all tracks, I expected the Chevrolet. I would say Chevrolets, but I think there's only one in the Pro Split. Mind you, this is only the Pro Split. I know a lot of times here at RCI TV, we have the Pros with the high silver. Not the case in GT4 in Season 4. The Pros all in one split, and only about 1 or 2 Chevrolets entering, and only one really on the scoring sheet, and that is Verstappen. I would have imagined that car would have struggled around here just a little bit. Doesn't necessarily do too well on tracks with very tight corners. Of course, straight line speed, the end all be all of the Chevrolet. But even still, Verstappen in second place in this practice session. Is that a sign of things to come in qualifying, I wonder?
I'm sure Verstappen hopes so. Obviously, it's like you say, the Chevrolet does struggle a bit around this track, but so far in practice, it's not much to go by. As it is practice, people may be trying out race pace versus qualifying pace, but Verstappen has managed to keep it up there in second. Surprisingly, a lot of BMWs at the top, which was something that I wasn't expecting to see going into this race. But who knows what they can pull out in the race and qualifying itself. Maybe some of the other cars will start to appear later on in qualifying. Just want to point out that Crozen is actually driving the Chevrolet as well, which I hadn't noticed before, but we do have a lot of people in the odd car. Obviously, you've got Octane then, the Maserati, Wiggs and Alpine. So there is, although the favourites of the BMW versus the Aston Martin and Mercedes, you do have some other cars coming in there, which is always exciting to see because they mix up the grid a little bit.
I suspect Billy Octane does not like himself very much and has decided to drive perhaps the most difficult car there possibly is. Folks, let me talk you through the Maserati real quick. If you are new to GT4 or just new to GT4 racing in ACC, well, no easy way to put this. The Maserati does not have ABS. It does not have traction control. It is, well, it's a very different beast.
It is, and with the no traction control, every corner is a risk. You can see him here really fighting that wheel sometimes just to keep on that straight line on the exit. But whilst maybe a particularly hard car to handle, it can be very fun. And I think coming into this, the people in the Maseratis, they're here to just have fun, try and get something done on the track. And surprisingly enough at Imola, one of the Maseratis ended up doing very well and fighting for a higher spot in the mid-pack.
Yeah, I'm very surprised to see Billy Octane not only so far down, but also in that Maserati. Very interesting stuff indeed. Well, here's the 579. They've led the majority of practice here, just a minute or so to go. And then we will get into the 10-minute qualifying session that will set the grid for the two 30-minute races here today. But BMW was looking incredibly strong. In fact, they had, I think it was 6 out of the top 10. And now they have been broken up a little bit. The Chevrolet in second place, and now, of all things, an AMG in third, a Porsche up to fifth with Lardier. So I was maybe expecting a little BMW dominance after seeing how practice was, but all of a sudden not looking so.
Yeah, the new people are really starting to break in now. Obviously, Buxek did very well last week. Came out of the top 10 sadly in race 2, but in race 1 he actually managed to secure himself 8th in the Mercedes, which maybe some people were looking for. Obviously, the Mercedes is really good around Imola, but he's doing the works here at Zolder, and he's currently sitting there on the 3rd place of the podium. So who knows if he can translate that into qualifying, which we will find out in a minute, as practice has just come to the end. So we're just waiting for the rest of the cars to come in now.
Watching chat, as always, here on RCI TV, Bart Macha, the strategist du jour, as I have never referred to him, but I've always thought that. Talks about Billy Octane, says Billy Octane is too good for a car with traction control and ABS. I suspect you might be right, Bart, but I also reckon that he's probably questioning his life choices right about now.
Yeah, and as we said, that Maserati is going to be very hard to handle. So we will see where he ends up coming in the race. Sitting down there in 30th, he's probably not too happy with his choice right now, but I reckon he's got something up his sleeve, and who knows, we might see a surprise qualifying with him up there in the top 15.
34 cars, down from the 41 a week ago, as there have been, of course, some retirements. There have been penalties as well. And after qualifying, we will bring you the live standings. But just a refresher on how qualifying works and how the weekend's going to shape up. 10-minute qualifying session for all 34 GT4s in the pro split here. That will set the starting order for all of the races here. There will be two 30-minute races. And here are the standings. Samuel Villa leading the championship. I will tell you, I have been told by head steward that these do not include the penalties. You got Samuel Villa with 118, 1 point over Christoph Verstreppen. And then you've got Fischer in third, Harsvord in fourth, and Abduladzed in the fifth place position. Behind him, all very close still, Makowski, Sarka, Butzik, Boswell, and Andy Bortmann rounding out the top 10.
And just missing out on that top 10, all very close in points from here on out. You've got in 11th place Jenvik, closely followed by Gaspar, who drove very well last week in that Porsche. Second race made up so many positions. Borodai and Katalayed come up in 13th and 14th, followed closely by Wojna, who's in 15th place with 39 points. Ertan in our only KTM is currently in 16th, with Calandrino in 17th. Rubila, of course, had a rough couple of races, is currently down in 18th, but will be hoping to bite back. And Tom Bryant and McConnell round out the top 20.
Of course, two races down, both of them at Imola, two races to come. And here is the back half of the field. These are the drivers that will be looking for a reprieve. You got Matushka Wig, who is the only two drivers, actually, yeah, that's 21 and 19 points. Then behind them, two drivers tied with 15, Leffa and Arasser. And then once again tied, Minnow Crozen and Harley Chamberlain with 14. Phil Roberts on 13, Hopner on 12, Pimlott 1 point behind, and the aforementioned Billy Octane with just 10 points.
And coming up will be the people at the back of the pack. Sadly, they'll be definitely trying to make a bit more of an impact today and hopefully climb a couple of places. In 31st, you have Mulholland, followed closely by Lardier with 8 points. Matching his 8 points is Vasilev, followed by Crozen and Hovarth, who, interestingly enough, did have some fairly good races, but I think might have had a spin or two towards the end. Varga comes in at 36th, with Jelinek in 37th. Lorenk, Daly, and Torsdello round out the pack.
And all lonely at the back is McNelly. In the back of the pack, we had 41 people on the board, but considering some didn't get points, I'm assuming that's because they did not finish. And 36 cars with points, 34 on the track today. Not bad. A lot of times after week one, you see a ton of people remove themselves based on how race one went. Not the case here, as qualifying fully underway. The outlaps are finished, and we should start to see some times get set here. I don't know what a good time looks like around here, Tim Pat.
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know either. In practice, we had a couple of 136s, I believe, and then the rest of the pack sort of slotting in the 137s. I think coming into qualifying, we may see 135, as Tom Bryant does put the first number down the board with a 136. And as you can see, people are coming through now. Botzek, very good in the practice. I think came third overall. And Rubilar, our Audi driver, who inconsistent last week but very good, has just come in with the first 135. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of mixed results coming in. I imagine 135, a low 135 around 0.1, 0.2 will probably be where the pole sitter will be towards the end of qualifying. But you can see all the cars come in now, setting a range of times, most of them in those 36s, and we've just got to wait really now to see where the majority of the field comes through, and then we'll have a better idea of what we're looking at for the races.
Well, one thing we haven't talked about is the weather, and that's probably because we can't complain too much. 22 degrees C ambient, 29 on the track. Track's optimum. They have run this track in. It was completely sunny, no clouds in the sky for practice. It is partly cloudy here in qualifying. I believe there's the ever-present chance of rain at some point, though a incredibly low chance, and it has just been an absolute treat for all involved with the weather this weekend. The temperature and everything. The wind's picking up a little bit. It's actually a little bit of a headwind coming down what I would consider the back straight here, so that will not do them any good for straight line speed. But everyone getting the laps in. We talked a lot about the Maserati being a brave pick. Adalbert Ertan in this KTM also a brave pick.
Yeah, but I think it's like you said a lot earlier, the KTM may be a surprising car today. It's maybe not the best, maybe not one that people usually pick, but you never know. And he does slot himself nicely there into second place with the second 135 of the match, just managing to get out of the 136s there. So, well, I don't know what
Don't
that
you love
says,
it?
but yeah.
Don't you love it when they make you look smart like that? That's my favorite part. It doesn't work for me. I think they do it out of spite. But Adalbert Ertan putting their name on the map and second overall. Billy Octane was down in 30th place in practice. We expect a little bit more out of the Estonian driver. And Triple R will love to see him somewhere closer to the front of the field. He was in the top 20. He's falling down the field. What will this be in the toe? He'll go back inside the top 20 with a 26.999 and immediately gets bumped out again. But very close stuff. We usually see this, Tim, around here. Very close times indeed.
Yeah, we do. And Rubelar is finally managing to put out the laps he wants to do. Obviously, I've said it quite a lot now, but last week was leading both races and under unfortunate circumstances did end up spinning out in both. So we're going to see him obviously trying to show us what he's made of and hopefully get some much better results on the board this week. And it's funny with, you mentioned Octane, I think the Maserati, a bold pick, and I would probably assume it was mostly a fun one, but he is struggling this weekend and he's probably thinking he's very lucky that there isn't rain actually, because I imagine rain would have made this very hellish for a car with no traction control.
I think when GT4s first came out, Tim, we did a race at Mount Panorama. I think it was mixed field GT3s and 4s, and it rained. And I think we had a couple of Maseratis that day, and I think some of them actually pitted and refused to come out of the garage while it was raining. I think it's how bad it was, and that is no joke. Imagine a racing driver telling you, "Nah, it's the car just can't do it." That tells you everything you need to know. Everybody being led by the 579, a 35.442. The time to beat Chris Rubler down to second place, 1/10 off of the overall. And what does the 579 have here? Not even trying to shade over, not trying to scrub off speed. Will it be an improvement? Oh, you bet it will be. A 35.193 goes nearly 3/10 quicker than his previous lap. Absolutely flying is that BMW.
And Abeladze is really taking it away here. He's just been so on it since the start of qualifying, and I think this might be a good indication for the race. Again, the BMWs, he said we had 6 of them in the top 10. Currently, we only have 3, and they're making up the top 5, but I imagine some of the other ones that are sitting there around 19th, 18th will also push themselves up as well. Some very fast drivers we saw last week that will be able to get out a good lap eventually. Might have just been caught up in a bit of traffic. Abeladze, though, has just been phenomenal so far, as we're currently looking at Fischer from Fischer Motorsport, who is down in 8th, tied exactly with the BMW of Borodai.
Yeah, that is what happens. Tie will always go to the driver who set the lap first. Alexander Borodai apparently did that lap first, and that's why they're credited with 7th, and Fischer has to settle for 8th. I find that happens a lot in ACC, and I can name on one hand how many times that's happened to me in other sims, but for whatever reason in ACC it seems to happen a lot. I've done it quite a bunch myself. It just shows you how much control and how precise you can be with these cars to tie like that. And of course GT4s, you always have that restriction, and you come to a track that naturally sort of equals everybody out too. It's what you will be dealing with. Well, the 373 has made up some time. Rubliar down to 3rd, and now only 2.5 tenths off the overall pace is the 373, and the BMWs coming back to the front.
And towards Dillo's obviously new this week, done very, very well so far, as we can see up in 2nd place, just ahead of Rubilar and Buzztech, the main people. Down in 20th, we have Lawrence currently, who is in the Mercedes. Was this the Mercedes that was doing incredibly well in practice, or have I got someone confused here? But not looking so hot in qualifying of the Mercedes. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, that was a 64. That was way up the grid in practice. Martin Lawrence for Connection Lost Racing, about 15th or so. This is sort of where I expect Martin Lawrence to be in the top half of the field. We'll be looking for a little something extra out of his Mercedes, but even still, he's right around a second off the overall pace, and that's not too bad, honestly. Here's Chris Rubliar. He's been trading second and third back and forth. This could be good enough for second place, but will it? No, it will not. As qualifying ends, that was actually his fastest lap, a 35.544, but not good enough to take second away. And now the 373 has finished qualifying everybody on their final lap here. You don't want to ruin it now if you're on a good one.
Yeah, and again, the KTM is just sitting just outside that top 10 and 11th. I mean, for a car that you thought might have been a bit of an underdog, he's done very well for himself in qualifying. Do you think this could translate into the race, or do you think this is going to be more of a one-lap wonder that he might not be able to quite get going once the racing starts?
Got some fans in the chat cheering on their favorite drivers and apparently their brother as well. Love to see that here in the RCI chat. Well, this is Minnow Crozen. He needs no introduction, but he might be looking for a top five here. And could this be another BMW in the top five coming to the line? The time to flip again, 82 BMW goes fourth, quickest, a 35.556. And that is more like it.
Yeah, he'll be really happy with that result. 3 BMWs in the top 5, 2 of them actually holding out first and second. So looking like quite a BMW dominant race. Obviously, with 3 long straights on this track, they're going to be loving those. They'll be the fastest car by far, getting up to speed quickly and then holding top speed on those straights. The BMW is just unmatchable. The only problem is, though, is we've got 2 very tight chicanes here and a third one a bit later on that's not so tight. The BMW might struggle in those a bit, but so far they are managing to hold it together, and the pole time was in fact a 1:25.09, so almost in the 1:24s there for Abeladze.
I think I've discovered what's happened here is Jordan Daly's sister, Allison, is in chat. And normally, what happens when you have siblings in chat is they're cheering for each other. And that is sort of the case here. But I don't think Allison's going to be pulling any punches for Jordan. Allison, if you ever want to tell us any embarrassing stories about Jordan, please do go ahead. We at RCI would love to hear that. Jordan talking about tweeting from the race, saying that he's going to have to fight back from a 30th or worse starting position. Honestly, I wouldn't want to have to do that here, Tim.
Yeah, very little opportunities of overtaking, especially if you're further towards the back there. It's just going to be such a lot of traffic, and I imagine the people in the top 10 will be pretty happy with where they finished. Everyone else might be worrying a bit more than normal here. You've not got a lot of options. Obviously, there are the straights, but other than that, I mean, you're not going to be dive bombing into some of those chicanes like we usually see on some tracks where the strat is to dive bomb into a corner, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of that here, Jesse.
Well, speaking of that, as we have the 3-minute intermission for race one, here's how race one is going to shake out. Well, it's actually quite simple. It's going to be a 30-minute race, and winner will take the points. And what we're going to do is based on qualifying, we're just going to set them up and do it again. Well, race one, I always said it's easier to lead from the front. And I know a lot of people will be wondering what that means. Well, whenever you are the one controlling your own destiny, it's easier to win, I guess, is what that saying means. But for you, Tim Peck, what are your keys today to staying out front if you are already on the front row?
I mean, you've got the obvious. A good start would be basically a securing move to stay ahead of the pack for most of the race. I'd say with 2 BMWs up front, very matched in their qualifying times as well, only about 2 tenths between them. I imagine they're going to be fighting away there, but both of them will be wanting to keep the fighting to a minimum. If they want to pull away from the pack, then you're going to want to be in your own clean air and just really hot lapping at the front there. But maybe for Rubelar or Crozen, they're looking at hoping that Abeladze is going to be fighting up front with Torzidlo in car 373, and I think that's basically how this race is going to go, is just a lot of sitting back, waiting for the best opportunity to strike, and more or less picking up the pieces if someone else ahead of you has a bit of an accident that causes them to get off track and not have such good acceleration.
For me, the key is very simple, and that is avoid being involved in any accidents. There's no reason for you to come down pit lane here, so there's no chance to repair damage that will not be detrimental to your racing position. And as we always see with these short 30-minute races, you get in an accident and you just can't recover. There's just not enough time. Easier said than done, but avoid the accident. And trust me, folks, there will be an accident at some point. You just have to hope that you've won the lottery and, well, you've not been involved in it. Of course, no live stewarding for the GT4 championship, as is standard. And of course, the championship points we showed you before qualifying were pre any post-race penalties. And I am being told by head steward that there were some post-race penalties. So we'll have to bring it to you next week to show you a clearer picture of what the championship will look like. And of course, after 4 races and 2 rounds, we will have a better idea of what the championship's going to look like and who the real contenders are. And that really all starts here today. A world away from Imola, completely different racetrack, and everybody waiting with bated breath for the green flag here today. It's very exciting.
Well, it's like you said, it's a very different track. I was just thinking, actually, Imola, you've got a lot of wide runoffs where if you do manage to go off track and spin out a bit, you can sort of slot yourself back in, hopefully not come back on with too much damage. Zolder, whilst it does have its runoffs, can be quite tight at times, and if you go off in the wrong place, that car is going to be damaged, and it will be a lot harder to claw back than it was at Imola here, especially as you see on this start-finish straight. You've got very tight walls, no room to run off track at all here.
These lovely camera angles brought to you by our broadcaster, Christian, who very clearly has went to the Stewie Academy of working the drone cam. Very eloquently and elegantly done indeed, as all 34-plus cars are going off on the grid. I'm monitoring our chat as a lot of the racers are in the chat, and Jordan Daly has said that he might take McConnell off the course at some point if he doesn't let him by. I'm not sure the legality of that. I'm glad I'm in this booth and not a steward who might have to deal with that. I think for anybody starting in the back half of the field, it is just the story of survival. What do they always say, Tim? You can't win it on the first lap, but you can sure lose it.
Yeah, and I think all cars are going to have to be exceptionally careful going into that first lap. You really don't want to get caught up in an accident here, as we've said many a time now. Funnily enough, we're on our formation lap now, and I don't see a lot of tyre weaving to heat up those tyres, which is something that the GT4s have against the GT3s. I mean, in a GT3, you come out and your tyres are already warmed up for you. On a GT4, they are frozen solid, so I'd have thought there'd have been a lot more weaving here, to be honest, to get some heat into those tyres, but most of them are staying fairly calm on the track. There's a couple of people now just heating up the brakes a little bit, and I imagine towards the start-finish line we'll see a lot more weaving just to make sure that for that first corner the tyres are nice and warm and you don't slide.
Something else we haven't talked about either at all is traffic. I know it's only a 30-minute race, but inevitably somebody's going to go off. There's going to be an accident. You're going to have to work traffic. That is also very crucial. Allison in chat has said that, of course, she has a lot of stories, but none of which are really appropriate for stream. Very fair. Do appreciate that anyway. Jordan, by the way, has also placed a gag order on his sister to not tell any of those stories. So, Jordan, visor down, mate. Get ready to go racing. It is confirmed no rain in the forecast for race 1, though it has gone completely cloudy. 28 degrees track temp. The wind is still a headwind going down the back straight. What will that do? Only time will tell. The drivers 2 by 2 as far as the eye can see around the chicane, getting ready to take the green flag on race 1 in round 2 here for the GT4 season 4 GT4 action. I'm Jesse Lee with Tim Peck and Christian on the cameras, and we're just about ready to go. Waiting to the last moment, the flag is waved, the lights are on, and we are green down into turn one. Less dramatic than in a GT3 car, but nonetheless also very exciting as they get single file up front, but they're 2x2 behind.
Yeah, and all these cars are now fighting for a position. We've not had any major moves, which is good because you really don't want to bin it on the first lap here. But as you can see, all these cars are just trying to find their own place on track and stay on. We've got a bit of fighting in the mid-pack, a couple of cars looking for some places, and it looks like a little tussle is happening there. As that's 747, not 147, I apologise, for Streppen has managed to get his way up into 6th so far, I believe.
Still side by side as they enter the first chicane. Now this is Calamity Corner. You usually in a GT3 have to get it sorted out. These cars, strangely enough, handled just a little bit better, probably due to the lower speed and downforce. And everybody pretty much making it through. I saw the 49 was either really laying off or there's contact. There's actually contact there. That's Fisher around, I'm pretty sure.
And we're just waiting for the camera angles on that. But meanwhile, the cars ahead are really going at it. I think first and second might have had a tussle earlier on the lap, but no, I believe Abeladze is still ahead, so he's going to be happy that he's managed to get away there, and he has put a bit of distance on 373 already, hoping to keep that for the rest of the race, as we now see Mulholland in the Mercedes just trying to find a way through Boswell, but Boswell's holding firm.
Yeah, Jake Boswell will do that. I've never had the pleasure of racing against him, but I have had the pleasure of watching him race. Jake Boswell is a fiercely defensive driver, not aggressively so, but he's that just perfect amount of annoying where he has the speed to not let you through, even if you do have a bit of advantage as they fan out on the front straight. We're looking at the 777 there. Clark in chat mentioning that that's a mate of his, and he's giving him a bit of a heckling. You go on, Clark. Your buddy Mulholland's doing really well inside the top 10 in the 777. Apparently they're part of the Jardier community team. We love to see it here on RCI.
And we can see there's a big fight here going on in the mid-pack. Can't quite tell who's who yet, as there's a lot of cars here, but it looks like Varga is trying to find a position. I think he might be the red Mercedes, in which case he's trying to now hold off against Lorenk, who is looking for a move on the inside, but again, these chicanes, they're so tight and bumpy, it's really not safe to do so. So Lorenk will be probably looking to keep the gap quite close, and hopefully later on when you get to the main straight, he'll try and just power through there. But for now, they're just keeping close to each other, looking for that position and hoping that hopefully the other one spins out. I don't think we're going to see a move going through these chicanes though.
Several cars in the pit lane, some in chat asking, and so am I, quite frankly, where Chris Rubliar has gone, as we're going to look at some replays. Oh, Tobias Hopner here has been involved in an incident. I can't tell you that the 19, the 49, the 808 are all in pit lane, and the track basically blocked right there after that accident.
Yeah, that is not where you want to have an accident there, somewhere with tight walls, and the second you go off, you're basically stranded in the middle of the track with nowhere to go, which means everyone else who's coming at you really fast is not going to have anywhere to go either. As we now cut back to the fight on Mulholland, who is, I believe, looking for a position on Boswell. He managed to pick up a few places. He's now ahead of Wojna, just really looking for some moves here, keeping the gap tight, and it looks like he's gaining slightly. Maybe later on he'll be able to go for a move.
Maybe so. This gap a little bit bigger than it was before, but here is the state of it all. You've got the 579 leading the 373 in the top two. And you've got Nino Crozen, one of the two Crozen family drivers in the race. And that completes a all BMW top three. That's not how they qualified, but that is how they're running. Fisher in fourth and Butzek in fifth place rounds out the top five. For Streppen in the sixth place position in that Chevrolet. Well, still wondering where Chris Rubliar went. Is he still circulating, or has he left the building? Well, here is Chris Rubliar, and that's already damaged that Audi. So yeah, he's the 17 apparently is still circulating, just heavily damaged, was involved in that that incident where the track was completely blocked, I guess.
I imagine he's going to be really upset about that one. obviously struggled a lot at Imola, had some great pace, but just couldn't seem to find a consistency, and as well was getting caught up in a lot of accidents. So we cut back to Boswell, who is maybe going for a move. No, he's not quite close enough yet, so he won't be able to quite get the dive on into turn 1, but he's been all over Calandrino's back for the past couple of laps, and I mean, it's only a matter of time before he finds a way through here.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, he's going for it. He's coming down the inside, and it looks like he's going to have the better exit on the Porsche as well.
Well, this might also bring the 777 of Mulholland through here as well, but he's held very stern on the outside. How's Calandrino, and he might just have him into the first chicane. We're going to have to find out. They're going to end up side by side. They're going to have a little bit of a touch, no harm, no foul. Giving a little bit of a wide berth there was Boswell, but off the track, couldn't cut it back, and he's going to lose 3 or 4 positions. And look, here comes Mulholland, who may get 7th place after all. Is he going to try it down to the braking zone? No, he will not. He will slot in line, but that means he has gotten that 8th position and now sets his sights on Calandrino.
Yeah, and that's the risk of doing a move into those chicanes. Obviously, you've almost got it done, but there's just very little room to get a move there, and if 2 cars go into it, I'm sure only one of them is going to come out, as we see Calandrino actually losing a bit of grip on the corner, opening up Mulholland to maybe find a way through on one of these straights. It seems like the Porsche is actually going to pull away here, sadly, for Mulholland, who is all over their backside again, as it looks like he might be getting a better exit on this chicane as well. No, he's gone wide there, unfortunately, and he will pick up a bit of dirt. He will have to wait a little bit longer if he wants to make a move, but as I was saying, those chicanes, if you go in 2, only one of you is probably coming out, so Mulholland benefited and has happy to, I guess, gain the place there.
Boswell went from 8th all the way back to 10th place as Alexander Bourdais nearly runs out of room in turns 1 and is actually going to go wide here. That car's something amiss on the 98. Very loose indeed, very uncharacteristic. Could have been just a little bit of dirt on the tires after going off, a little shaken. Got to get back in the mindset, get back in the groove, but positions surrendered there. At least one of them for Alexander Bourdais. Now we go back up to this battle, the battle for what is effectively the 7th place position. A little bit of a gap from Calandrino to Mulholland now. Watch now in the 16, who is threatening Mulholland, and that's Jake Boswell in the, what I refer to as the obnoxious pink cars, the RCI and liveried sort of cars, if you will.
It is a very vibrant pink, and it really does stand out, which I think he's hoping for here, as Boswell's looking to make a bit of an impact on this race. Just even though he did go off, he's still right there. He's looking for a move on Wojner, who was originally going for Mulholland. Fallen back a little bit now, which will give Mulholland a bit of time to breathe as he now goes on Calandrino, who has been caught up again. So very exciting as we cut down for the fight for 16th, as it looks like Schwensik is maybe getting a position on, I think, Bortmann there. Oh no, it looks like he's just taken Harsford now. They're fighting through the chicane as all 3 of them manage to stay on track. They are so close right now as they come up to the start-finish straight. I don't know who's going to get the better end of the stick here, but I imagine it's going to be that BMW with Schwensik in it. As they go around that first corner, he manages to hold the outside well. And it looks like
he's going 3 wide up the middle. There's not space for that. Oh, he's going to try it anyway. Look, he's trying to go up the inside. I don't know about this. He's going to get loose. They ping pong off of each other. And now 3 more cars join in that. Oh my goodness, it's so very close. I wouldn't have done that, but somehow they've made it work.
And there are so many cars here that are all just fighting for positions. Oh, 933 catches it and goes on.
Is that McConnell or Villa? I don't know.
That'll be Villa, I believe. Boardman is coming through now as he looks to move into the chicane. He's pushed through the majority of the cars. Did start this battle in 18th, and I believe he's going to come out in 17th here as he just managed to fight off Brian. Oh, he's gone! And he's back on track. It looks like he's got a lot of damage, though. He just manages to catch that. So he's not completely out, but a lot of damage, and I don't think he's going to be in fighting position very long, Jesse Lee.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got turned right there, Tim, if I'm honest. That's what it looked like. I wonder if we have a replay of that, because that looked like he was a little slow on the straight and got turned unintentionally, obviously. But when you get up behind somebody in a sort of a turn and you touch them, you can send them around. And I think that's what. Oh no, it was just a coming together, and getting the worst part of it was Andy Bortmann there flashing the lights there in frustration. Heavy damage on the 69 Grease Weasel Racing Porsche.
And it is a shame, but it's going to be hard to tell that one who was at fault. I imagine mostly just a racing incident, but it did look like Bortmann
Ooh,
did slightly cut across there as we cut down to the fight for 13th with Borodai, who's looking for a move on Varga. Can't quite make it stick coming through this corner. He's stuck right behind Varga, doing a brilliant job on the defense here. The Mercedes really able to just take up the track and not let anyone through. But the BMW coming into a straight now is going to have a much better exit than the Mercedes. It looks like he's going to be able to push through here. I reckon by the time they get to that chicane, Borodai will have made that move stick.
oh, and only just. No quarter given, none asked. But Alexander Borodai threw in the 98 over Varga. And Clark in chat has just informed us that the Mulholland and Wajda in the 16, they both drive for the Jardier community team together. And they're actually good friends. And that's going to make that battle for 8th place extra interesting, as they are separated by only just about 3/10. Martin Lawrence, who we saw was in the middle of the field in qualifying, is all the way up into the 12th place position now with Borodai behind him. And what has happened? I saw Jordan Daly inside the top 20 something, and now I don't see him anymore. So I wonder what's happened to Jordan Daly's car, because he has disappeared off my timing board. He's back to 27th now, and I'm pretty sure I saw him in the top 25, Tim.
Well, it does look like his last lap wasn't quite so great, so we're going to see what's happening now in the replay. Well, it looks like he just got in a tussle with people, really. Is that an Aston Martin coming through? That car number 17 is fighting him, and it looks like he just had a bad lap, really, and has dropped quite a lot of places. Maybe he's gone off somewhere and we've not quite managed to capture that, but I'm sure Daly will be looking to fight through the back now, as he is held up behind Rubelar, who, as we know, has very good pace. So they're all fighting. P. Roberts down with them, actually, in a very similar car.
Oh!
And Daly has been pushed back a little bit there. Rubelar is still looking to find a way through this BMW, but with so much speed, he just can't get through. And I mean, for a fight for 26th, you can't ask for something much more exciting than that, really, can you?
No, you certainly cannot. That does explain what happened to Jordan Daly. He wasn't the top 25 like I thought he was, but giving up those 2 spots. And speaking of giving up spots, got the 300 working on the inside of Nate McConnell here. McConnell's going to be a sitting duck. That's Neil Pimlott behind him as well. Thinking about going 3 wide is the red car in the background. That Aston thinks better of it and just lets them file through. But definitely Pimlott will want to sort themselves in, but hasn't been afforded that opportunity. But position for the 300 BMW, my, do the BMWs look racy today. You see them making most of the moves so far.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the advantages they have on the track, really. But smart choice there, in my opinion, from Pimlott to just back out a little bit and let McConnell fight Calatard, because I don't know, I feel like this race, every time there's been 3 wide, there's been an issue, as expected, really. So Pimlott hanging back a little bit, just waiting for a better chance to strike, is the right call here for me. He is keeping a very tight gap to McConnell there. Sorry, as Ayrton, I believe, is looking for a move. Oh no, I think he might be fighting someone there, actually, but I think Lorenk has managed to catch up and is now looking for a move on that KTM. The KTM managed to hold 11th place very nicely so far, and I mean, I'm a little bit surprised he's up there, but at the same time, he's done phenomenal so far and managed to hold out Lorenk for yet another lap.
Yeah, Martin Lawrence there trying to get by the KTM. I think Lawrence actually knows a little bit about the KTM. I could be wrong about that. Normally does drive the AMG, though does Lawrence. But Ertan, an absolutely brilliantly fast driver. And two of the RCI greats, I would say, going head-to-head there. Martin Lawrence and Adalbert Ertan. And here is Andy Bortmann, who was deposed of on the straightaway a few laps ago, you have to say. The car looking just a little bit tired, and coming back through the field there past the 42. Is that Tom Bryant he just passed? I'm pretty sure it is. So even though the car's damaged, being able to make up some spaces here.
and he's just made that look easy, to be honest. It was a very clean move. There wasn't any tapping, which is, I'm guessing, Bortmann's ideal state here, as he's already damaged. He doesn't really want to be picking up anymore, as he's now starting to close in on Villa, who's in the Aston Martin. The Porsche has been doing very well so far. I think a lot of the Porsches have been really fighting on the track. Obviously, in terms of GT4s, they are the most rounded car we have here. Very easy to pick up and drive, take the corners very well, got a nice lot of acceleration speed. So Bortmann will be looking to climb back up to where he originally was. Doing a very good job of it so far, as he's still trying to close the gap here on Villa. Not quite in the move, as we cut up to Jake Boswell, who is fighting Wojna, I believe. He's looking for a move, and it looks like he's going to fight for the inside here, coming up to the first chicane, and he can't quite get through yet. He's just not enough room, as Wojna manages to hold off there. Boswell has been all over his backside, really trying to look for a move, can't quite find a way through, and it is going to stunt his acceleration, which means he won't be able to get ahead of Wojna on a straight either. Again, a lot of great defending in this, and well, on a track with so little overtaking opportunities, that's all you need. Is Ertan, the KTM, is actually coming into the fight. Wojna's fallen back, and Boswell has made his way through.
Well, that's exactly what you got to do around here. Probe for weakness, and when you find one, you have to execute your own plan. You have to have a plan. You have to be ready. And certainly that last half lap, seeing Jake, the Bosmeister Boswell, as we call him around here, he was doing just that. He was taking an alternate line or positioning his car in case something would happen to Wojna, that he would be able to get that spot, and he has done just that. Imagine how frustrated Jake Boswell must be. He was fighting Calandrino for 7th place, and all of a sudden found himself back in 10th place, all the way behind Wojna and the likes. So now, getting one of those spots back. Next up, 1.2 seconds to Mulholland to get back to where he started from in the first place. We're right on board with Bortmann in the 98. He's caught up to Martin Lawrence in the 171, and that's Adalbert Ertan in front of him and Jake Boswell. This is all still part of that same battle, that same train. It's so difficult to find space. It's so difficult to gain time on anybody here, because the second you go to pass somebody, you've lost a second or two, Tim, and everybody's right back to you.
I was going to say, Boswell here is, well, probably looking to more defend now than really focus on McConnell, who is ahead. Oh, Mulholland, sorry, is ahead of him, but the gap is about a second big. Boswell has 5 cars behind him, as you say, and they're all fighting for that 9th place. I think his main priority is going to be defending for a little bit as he just tries to close that gap. But I mean, we've got 5 cars all looking to make a move, and no move being shown yet. Drive-through on McConnell has just been informed by the stewards. Car 23, he's down in 21st currently, so I imagine that's going to be track limits. It doesn't look like he's too close to fighting anyone, so I think that will be a drive-through for track limits here, but I mean, that's the end of a race really for him.
Yeah, so no live stewarding for the GT4 championship here on Thursday on RCI TV, so there's really only one thing for it. That can only be an ACC assigned penalty, and of course track limits. And I am surprised by that, I will admit. 30-minute race to get track limits this early. Still had about 12 minutes to go when he got that particular penalty. He is serving that, is Nate McConnell in the 23 Aston. And earlier I might have mentioned the obnoxious pink and blue colors of being RCI colors. I'm confusing myself. I meant to say triple R colors, mind you. But of course, Triple R does usually have a RCI partnership, which is why I consider them one and the same. But those are actually Triple R colors, the very pink and powder blue colors of those cars. So if you see any number of cars with that particular look, they're likely Triple R affiliated teams. Rins Crozen in the chat saying that they were involved in that big track blocking incident to start the race. A massive amount of damage, was all the way back in 22nd, and I think they pulled the garage door down on their car. Their day, well, for race 1 anyway, is done. So they've joined us in chat. Sorry about your luck there, Rins. As always, race 2, mate.
Yeah, there is always a chance to maybe do something a bit more in race 2, as we do see Schwensik here run off track and have to rejoin. That's really unfortunate. He was fighting Varga there for, I believe, 14th place. So let's have a little look what happened. It seems he's maybe going for a move around the outside here, but yeah, he just gets 2 wheels on the grass, and once that's happened, the braking is not very good. And he does manage to slot himself back in behind Varga, so he will be able to look for a move soon, as it looks like now he's actually going right down the inside. Varga's gone wide, and maybe both the BMWs are coming through.
I wonder if Varga's done that on purpose. That almost looked purposeful, where he could have turned in, but he didn't, because he realized he ran him off the track. And of course, the way stewarding works is all taken care of post-race, and the drivers have to report their own incidents. Maybe Varga looking for some respite there of, hey man, if I give you the spot, maybe you don't report that, or maybe we just agree to disagree. Martin Lawrence, by the way, has also been given an ACC-assigned drive-through penalty for track limits. It's all coming apart here for some of these drivers. They are going to lose the top 12 spot, will Martin Lawrence, and that's an absolute pity. It was going so well for the driver so far.
Yeah, I think they'll all be definitely looking to be a little bit more careful towards the end of this race, and even in race 2, to be honest, especially those cars that have had the drive-through, because, I mean, with only a 30-minute race, a drive-through will put you right at the back there, and you'll have to try and slot into one of those, I'd say, top 30 spots, really. That gap in between 20th and 30th is where most of those drive-through penalties will end up. As we see Fisher, who maybe has done a move on Buzz here. I'm not sure if he has, or if they've just been fighting in this position. He might just be defending here, but doing a very good job of it, at least, as he actually comes up to Crozen in the BMW in 3rd place. Fisher, who did phenomenally at Imola, will be looking, of course, to try and get back onto that podium this weekend, as we get Buckzek's view from the front of the car here. One of the RCI specials really gives you a good sort of show of what's happening to the cars in front, as they really ate the curb there, but Fisher doing a great job at both holding off Buckzek and trying to catch Crozen at the same time. It's a lot of multitasking. You've got to be not only attacking but defending, and of course, as we've seen earlier on in the race, if you go a little bit wrong in either, you're going to lose the opportunity on both.
That camera angle is just phenomenal. It's almost like a monster truck going over a stack of cars almost. The suspension travel, the car completely in the air, and the control of these drivers to be able to continue keeping the car straight, not lose traction, and also gain time in the process. It's no wonder why we've seen a couple of cars get drive-through penalties for track limits. You're pushing the limits on every single lap, every single corner. You're getting airborne, you're in some cases going off track, and this, of course, is a fight for the final podium position. The 579, by the way, not too far out in front right now. Only 1.3 seconds to the good is the leader of the race, so they haven't run away just yet. And that you know as good as I do, Tim, one little minute mistake, running off track, running wide, having to gather it back up, that gap will be completely gone. So very close stuff indeed, all the way through the top 5, including these 3 drivers for the final podium spot.
Yeah, I mean, a 1.5 second gap, I don't think Abeladze would be upset with. Maybe he does want it to be a little bit more, but especially in these cars, I mean, you're not really dive bombing from back there, so unless he does make a mistake, which I'm sure he's focusing very hard not to, I think that will just about be enough. As 579 Abeladze has managed to stay ahead this entire race so far. I don't think he's actually been anything but first, as these cars still continue to fight for 3rd place here. I believe Ertan, the KTM, has been taken at some point by Borodai in the BMW. I think that happened last lap, but Ertan is starting to sort of lose so much now. And we're actually going to race replay here of what happened, and yeah, it looks like the KTM just starts to go a little bit wide, and there's a bit of contact going into the chicane. Maybe he gives up the place, because it looks like he's getting away here, but no, it's just bad acceleration coming out. But keeping that gap close, Ertan is looking to really fight back through here, as he sort of comes on a good move here on Borodai, really providing a good exit, and sadly the KTM isn't going to have enough on the BMW here, so I mean, we'll keep a close eye on this fight, as it looks like the fight for 9th between Boswell, Wojcicki, Borodai and Ertan is getting close yet again.
I'm amazed. I thought Boswell was going to set sail and go catch Mahal, and that hasn't happened. Wojcicki has caught back up to Boswell for the 9th place position. And what did we say earlier? Whenever you get to defending or not even fighting, but just having to defend and slow yourself up, and you invite other people to join your fight. And that's exactly what you're seeing as we were on board there with Ertan's KTM, and you saw Borda in front, and of course Boswell and Wajna all together as very quick races here. The final 5 minutes of race 1. Do not go anywhere. There is a race 2. Each round of this championship has 2 30-minute races, and there was a lot to learn here. Rins Krozen learned that his race car wasn't very good, and lamenting that it was a bit frustrating there. But I'm interested, Rins, if that's something you can fix. Please do let us know in chat, or is it just an inherent handling issue with the car, perhaps? But even still, Tom Bryant trying to come back on Andy Bortmann. Bortmann's going to miss the corner there, but Tom Bryant doesn't really have anywhere to go, and that is going to throw him into the clutches of the 300 behind.
And Bortmann has done a brilliant job of catching up as much as he can. I believe he fell to about 20th place earlier. It looks like a little bit of a tussle's going on there, but all of them managed to hold it together as in car 300. He's looking to find, I guess, the pieces between Bryant and Bortmann, as Tom Bryant is really looking for a way through. Bortmann has managed to plant his car very nicely in the middle of all of these corners. They're coming up to the start-finish straight now, I believe. Oh no, this is the back straight. Oh no, it is the start-finish straight. I'm more confused here. But yeah, the cars are coming through the start-finish straight. It looks like Tom Bryant isn't going to be in a position to make a move on Bortmann, sadly. But so many fights going on at different points in the track. It's something me and Josh were talking about last week. They do group off. Very much like the GT3s, you get these groups forming of different sort of speeds and different cars coming on others. But in the GT4s, a lot of them tend to stay quite close to each other, and you get these clumps forming, and the clumps stay close. And as we were saying, once one person starts defending, all of those clumps start to come closer together, and you just make this big chain of cars. So lots of different fights happening around the board here. We now come into Bucksack, who is desperately still trying to get through Fisher, who has slightly dropped off to Krozen, although not fully. So this fight for the podium, it looks like it's going to come down to the final few minutes of the race.
I have heard a rumor that I cannot confirm, but Chet seems convinced that Nino Krozen has driven the tires off of his third place 82 BMW, and that's why Fisher and Buchek are together with him. And actually, that's for Streppen in the background as well, right there. So all of these guys coming together here in the final few minutes. You have to hold on, and for Minnow, it's going to be a job of being as quick as you possibly can be and as defensive as you can. If you have anything left in the tires, well, now'd be a great time to use it.
Yeah, Verstappen has been sitting in that 6th place for a long time now, and he does start to make a comeback, I imagine, because Krozen is having to defend so much. It's going to be hard if his tyres really are dead. There's not a lot of grip going through the corners, and GT4s already don't have a lot of grip anyway. So he will be looking to try and preserve this as much as he can before the end, as we see now all 3 cars come through the first chicane. And again, we've got this lovely camera angle from Bucksack. We can't see past Fisher because, I mean, that Aston Martin is just such a huge car. And now we get to see it from the other way with Krozen trying to defend between the two. No moves opening up yet, but with only 2 minutes to go, you never know what can happen here as we come into the final part of the race. And it looks like Krozen is managing to hold it together quite well so far, which he's going to be happy about, because a podium position would be brilliant for him right now.
Well, for Abeladze, it is all going their way as they have a 1.7 second lead, and it's hard to imagine them losing it. Anything's possible, though. But the final lap is underway. Abeladze has taken the white flag, 1.9 seconds ahead, but we stay with the fight for third place. As close as ever is Gert Fischer in 78. He has Buchek and Verstappen behind him, and Holland is far off in the distance. So it will come down between these 4 drivers. One mistake could lead to another mistake. You never know. We saw people get shuffled early. It can happen late as well. bated breath here. Very close stuff as Fisher trying to get as close as possible. He's got to try it, Tim. You have to think.
Yeah, he does need to make this move on the final lap if he wants it. Of course, he may opt into just waiting for race 2 and taking the points he's got. It looks like Crozen has lost grip, and here comes Fisher. He's just going to march on right through. Thank you very much, as Fisher. Thank you very much, as Buckzek, who is also trying to push his way through now as they come into the chicane. Too wide, and it's looking like they might collide. No, they both managed to keep it together, but Buckzek managing to just push through in the Mercedes, and Crozen's not going to be happy about that. One mistake and both cars come through. He's going to be kicking himself there. Sadly, it doesn't look like Verstappen manages to really push himself in, but he is right there now.
He's going for it!
Crozen makes a move again, but can't quite find it. As we said, Buckzek amazing on those defenses, plants himself in the middle of the chicane, but the BMW speed is starting to show as they come forward towards the final set of corners. Oh, there's a little bit of a tap here. I don't think he's going to find it, Jesse Lee, but boy, oh boy, what a brilliant set of corners there as the cars come across the line. Fisher will come home with third place as Buckzek comes fourth, and Crozen, kicking himself, will be coming fifth.
Folks, we talked about it all race long. That's exactly what can happen here and what you expect to see. He made it 25% of the lap around. If we're going to have a drag race here for what will eventually be. Threw it a touch, and did Bordy get that? I think he did. He lost it on that lap to Ertan, and right at the line, Bordy got it back. So a top 10 for Alexander Bordy as Abeladze wins the race, his first win of the season. And excellent stuff. And after starting almost at the back, if not at the back, Jordan Daly does rebound for a 21st place finish. Got to be happy about that, considering where you came from, as several cars having issues. And celebrating the win is Abeladze in the 579.
Did Lorenz get another drive for at the end there?
He might have done. Either that or he parked the car, one of the two. Abeladze wins. Idlo will finish in second place, and Gert Fischer will be your surprise third place finisher for race 1. An excellent race indeed. Buchek fourth. Minno Crozen will have to settle for fifth. Verstappen in sixth place. Holland, Boswell, Wajda, and Borodai round out your top 10. The rest of your finishers scrolling past your screen at this time. And what a crazy race. Now, I ask you, Tim Peck, what have they learned from race 1?
I mean, the obvious one being just try and stay consistent, stay on the track, don't get in trouble. You know, there's a lot of instances there. Sometimes people were spinning out, sometimes they were getting an actual racing instance of another car, but if anything speaks to me right now, it's consistency is key, and I think it just goes to show from the leading cars, Abeladze and towards Idlo, Fisher as well. As long as you stay on the track and as long as you keep your racing line, the positions will just come to you. So I think going into race 2, a lot of these cars are looking to be a little bit more careful, maybe not quite as aggressive as they had been, but hopefully still looking for a move where it's a bit more safer.
Well, as advertised, we have 2 races in GT4, 2 30-minute races. Race number 2 coming at you live in another 3 minutes or so. Don't go anywhere. Actually, I take that back. Take this opportunity, get yourself a drink, a snack, bathroom break, and we will bring you race number 2. And I was, do you know what I'm known for around here, Tim Peck?
I do not know what you're known for around here.
Well, I'm the token American, obviously, if no one gathered that by the tone of my voice. But I also love to do maths. I'm a maths guy, and I have been doing the maths on this particular occasion, and I'm pretty sure that Gert Fischer is leading this championship over Christoph Verstappen by a point or 2 at this stage. And Abeladze, I think, is now third in the championship after that. And that's just my hearsay, but I have jotted it down, and I'm pretty sure that is how your top 3 looks after race 1 here today. A very different top 3 than we came in here today with.
I think you might be right there. Obviously, Villa was originally at the top of the championship, but he did end up finishing 7th there, so wouldn't have been gaining quite as many points as Fisher, who has been, I'd say, consistently in that 3rd place position, as we do now look at the grid again for race 2. These were, of course, the qualifying results. We are not having a reverse grid. We are not having a race-ending grid. We're back to how they qualified. So you've got people retaking their positions. Rubelar will retake 3rd after another chaotic race for him. I can't remember where he finished. I believe he got caught up in the first lap incident. And for him, that was race over. He was just driving around doing laps where he could. So Rubelar will be again looking to prove himself in the 2nd race. I'm surprised, honestly, that it came to that, but Rubelar again, very consistent, very good laps, but always getting caught out at the wrong time.
Just going over the chat and the fallout from race 1, Nate McConnell says heckin' track limits. He, of course, was one that got a drive-through. Clark says, great coverage, guys. Awesome race. Well, thank you, Clark, for being here with us on RCI TV on your Thursday evening. Wherever any of you are on this Thursday evening, we hope you're well, and we thank you for spending a little bit of your Thursday with us. And also a big thank you to all of our partners that make this race and every race possible. Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. You can get a discount off your driver coaching at Driver 61 by using RCI's discount code. You can find that code and more in the description and on our Discord. And of course, if you are going Fanatec, you can use our referral link. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us out here. And we would very much appreciate it as well. Of course, AK Informatica hosting our service as well. Big thank you to them. We certainly appreciate it. Some other things coming in the chat. Rin says that he quit, so now he's going to have to start 34th on the grid, adding to their frustration. And Allison making fun of me, saying you're American. I would have said Canadian. Very funny. That is, of course, the running joke here, people.
And we see them now. They're just doing another outlap to get back towards the grid start. Last time, I think car 373, driven of course by towards Zidlo, may have had the better start on Abeladze, although Abeladze did manage to catch up again by the 1st corner and stick it on the outside. So I believe going into the 2nd race, we might see again a much better start from towards Zidlo. Maybe he might get ahead and we could see a different outcome this time. The question I have is, do you see anyone else other than Abeladze winning this race? I mean, he had amazing pace in the race before, and both of the front two did manage to pull away. There was a 6-second gap between the first 2 and 3rd towards the end. So do you think we'll see a bit of a different fight for 1st place this time, or do you think it's going to be a similar result?
Yeah, I think it is going to be different, Tim. And I'll tell you this, we didn't see what Chris Rubelar had because of the incident. And of course, Rubelar, who qualified 3rd, will start 3rd in this race. Just had the most awful of luck, did the 17, and will now get their starting spot. As you see, speaking of 17, going off the track there, trying to warm up the tires. Everybody is doing the very slow start, trying to heat them up. Different conditions here, only partly cloudy, a little bit warmer than it was a race ago, 30 degrees C, 23 ambient, and no wind. Certainly that will also play a factor as well. That's my key right here. Look at the Big One Esports Club driver, Chris Rubelar. Let's see what he can do out of the 3rd place position.
Yeah, and as we've been saying, he's a very fast driver and just been caught up in a lot of unfortunate circumstances, really. So he will be looking to do something from 3rd place here as we come on to that start-finish straight. Funnily enough, Abeladze and Torzillo are going to start neck and neck with each other, but to me it looked like Abeladze was getting a much better outlook than Torzillo was. So we're going to see what happens here as we do cross the start-finish line. And away we go into the 1st corner again. Torzillo, I think, has got a much better start as he looks to make it stick around the outside of Abeladze going into the 1st corner. And it looks like, no, Abeladze is going to pull away here, sadly. And again, we've got Fisher already looking to make up places, starting 6th as he did finish 3rd last races. Oh, it looks like there's been a bit of an accident. Is that? I don't know who's gone off there, but we are watching the main pack right now. A lot of chaos happening in the mid-pack. Oh, Roger has been spun off. It was not Wojcicki, but it was someone as, again, contact on the first lap. And, oh, they've come back on track, and this is huge contact here. A lot of cars have gone off track. I count 5, maybe 6 have gone off here. It's unfortunate, but these things happen on the first lap.
There were a lot of cars. That was inside the top 10 where that started. There was a Porsche off initially and several other cars as well. This is how it happened. A little bit of contact, and then you get a car that's already off, and there's going to be more contact here. Look up 3 wide in front, and they're still having contact in the second chicane as they try to go side by side. They're beating and banging, rubbing fenders and tires, trying to get through. Joseph Varga just trying to find space here to survive through all of this. Andy Bortmann involved in, completely overshooting it, and a big crunch there as Joseph Varga, and more contact on the inside of it. And what car? Oh no! And yet again, and they've spun back onto the racetrack. Another chicane unintentionally put by the cars, as everyone is going to have to get through. And all of a sudden, Rins Crozen will say, thank you very much, as I have gained 10 spots and I didn't really have to do anything.
And here I was thinking it was going to be a lot safer a start, with some cars being a bit more cautious this time, but everyone really going for it on the start of race 2 here, and we've seen a lot of incidents so far as another group of cars comes up, all very close to each other. Hopefully we don't see another incident as Pimlott pushes his way through the pack. I believe we've just seen him take 2 places here, and he's getting spun out as well. And it looks like he's managed to hold it a little bit better, but he is going to drop to the back of this pack, so probably looking at 22nd really once the scoreboard manages to catch up here. An unfortunate start for a lot of people here, and I think a lot of people are going to be rather upset, but most of them managed to stay out of the pits this time. Car 777 will be the only car entering the pit lane, and it will be a game of catch up for him, as again, all still bunched up coming into the chicanes. This has been chaos so far, Jesse Lee.
We're going to continue to watch some of these replays, as in the hairpin, it all went a bit pear-shaped, you'd have to say. Cars attempting to find space, merging back. There's just not a lot of track there. It's hard for us to place blame there. It's also not our job to do so, so I will refrain. But I will report the 777 of Mulholland, who probably got just about the worst of that, is sitting in the pit lane. Everybody else did continue. I saw a lot of the RR affiliated cars involved. The 42 of Bryant was involved. I believe Jake Boswell in the 47 was involved. And rather many besides. It's hard to keep up. There were a couple of Porsches. I thought it was Andy Bortmann initially, but it was not Andy Bortmann. As we continue to look, that was the 3 wide situation that turned into this, and it's just melee here. Cars spinning off every direction. There's almost nowhere to go. One car sliding in the middle of the track, trying to take avoiding action, tipping other cars across. Absolute bedlam to start this race.
And I was about to give an amazing shout out to Crozen there, who is down in 20th and actually looking for positions, but it looks like he's just been tapped. No, that was Boswell against Magnani, and oh no, there's even more chaos as Magnani doesn't manage to hold it in a straight line. It's knocked a lot of people into a wall there. An unfortunate situation.
He's towed to pit road. Sorry to interrupt, but that was Harsford in the 20. I was fearing it was. They're going to be 3 wide here. It's not going to work. Hitting the eject button right there was Phil Roberts, realizing that, no, that wasn't going to work. I know that's a track limits violation, but honestly, discretion is the better part of valor. The 20 has joined the 777 into the pit lane, and still they continue to try and go neck and neck and outbreak each other. More contact there, and even more contact. Why not?
You'd have thought with a long race left to go, we've got a 30-minute race here and 25 minutes is still on the clock. You'd have thought people would have been a little more careful, but everyone's really trying to climb through those places right now as 2 more cars go wide on the corner and do have to rejoin. It does look safe so far, so I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are holding their breaths right now, and a lot of sweaty moments here, just trying to make sure that everyone stays on the track. Really, as we go again 3 wide into the corner, it looks like Tom Bryant is staying out of trouble so far, and he's getting a good exit. He might be able to get on Calandrino here.
Do interrupt me if you see anything, Tim, but just reading chat, Bart Macha says, oops, somebody hit the chief steward. Yeah, but I put a bounty on them anyway. Tom Bryant will have known that. So it's all good and fair. Bartmacha asking again, what is even going on? McLean says, I just went to the bathroom for 2 minutes, came back, and it's carnage. Clark saying, this race is crazy.
Oh. It
Allison
looks
asking,
like Lawrence is making a move on Bortmann here. Bortmann, who has had a tough couple of chicanes. Lawrence can't find his way through, but it looked for a second like it could be good. He's right up the rear here, so I will let you continue reading chat, but they are very close right now, so do not take your eyes off the screen, anybody.
No, absolutely not. That's why we told you to get a drink, a refreshment in the break. I will tell you, I did think race one was a little too clean. Usually you get this, don't you, Tim, where one race will be fairly calm and the next race will be a feeding frenzy. And I think this race we definitely got the feeding frenzy. We had the one real big incident in race one. We had a lot of good passes as well. This race so far, it has been very frustrating as the 818 is completely stopped. That's Magnani. Now, this is a fight here. This is Calandrino, who was also involved in that lap one melee, all the way down in 25th, getting fought by the likes of Billy Octane and is that a Porsche? Yeah, that is. That's Calandrino's Porsche with Boswell and Octane is what I'm seeing here. And Phil Roberts, all the Triple R and RCI related teams all together, and a bit of a, and that's sort of what happened. I mentioned a lot of these guys were involved in lap one wreck. Well, this is where they've ended up, the back half of the 25.
And they're all still together, and they're all still really close to each other and tapping. So it looks like we've not seen the end of the fights just yet. Obviously, we've got a lot of cars here trying to make their through. Octane in the Maserati has fallen down to 28th. I believe he was maybe a little bit higher coming into this, but Elwig in the Alpine has managed to pick up a lot of positions. He's up in 17th right now, and Boardman's actually in 11th. So a lot of people have been climbing and capitalizing off the mistakes. But, I mean, wow, I wasn't expecting them all to be so bunched up still, especially after a lot of accidents, as we see Tom Bryant is looking to make a move on Roberts here. Doesn't look like he's going to find anything, but he's really prioritizing those exits. Just waiting for Roberts to give an opening to him here. Oh, someone's gone off the track there.
Yeah, they have. They certainly have. It's the something 11 cars at the 111 of Vasilyev. It is Vasilyev in the 111. They will drop outside the top 25. They're all the way down to 30th now is Anton Vasilyev. And they, was that contact or did they just spin? Hard to tell. Could have been both.
Yeah, it looks like he might have been tapped slightly, but again, it doesn't look like he has a great exit either, so it might just be a racing incident as we see him pull away now.
Well, I was laughing not at the misfortune of anybody. I was actually laughing at the good fortunes of Rins Krozen, who was frustrated with his Chevrolet, left the race, had to start in the back, as is how ACC is designed, but he was allowed back into race two. He started dead last. He's in the top 20 now, and he just passed Wig for 17th.
Yeah, and I was going to give a bit of a shout out to him earlier. I mean, he's done amazing. He's climbed, I'd say, more than half the positions as he gets back into this race here. Was a little confused with his, I'm guessing, brother, maybe a friend, Menno Krozen, who's currently holding third place, but both the Krozens have been doing very well so far. And it looks like Rins Krozen is managing to give himself a little bit of a gap here. He's got a bit of a way to go if he wants to catch Daly. There's a 3-second gap there, which is going to be a little hard to close, but I'd say from starting last place, if he can just put himself in that gap in 17th and just hold it together, I mean, he's laughing. What a brilliant race start for him. And yes, it was out of his misfortune, but he managed to stay out of it, and he's done such a good job so far. I do just want to draw your attention to Ertan, who is currently in the KTM. He's up in 8th at the moment. I think he started around 12th, 11th, and that's where he was last race fighting, and currently he's up in 8th. It does look like he's managing to hold off Schwensik as well, who's in the BMW in 9th, who is starting to close in on him, but it seems a lot of people have had an ideal start here and will be very happy with how it is. Verstappen is still down in 10th. He had a much better start last time, but I think he started around 10th, so again, these top 10 are going to be counting their lucky stars. It couldn't have gone much better for them, and all they need to do now is hold on to those positions.
I don't know what I expected out of Rubliar, but fifth was not it. They ended up fifth after the start, and they've been there ever since. But it is still 19 and a half minutes to play. We'll have to see how that all works out. Abelardo still leads the race, but by only 2/10 over towards the dough. And here they are, in fact, the 579 and the 373. Nose to tail, as it once again is a BMW 123. Well, we know that Minnow ran their tires off in the 82 last time, and that's what kept them from finishing on the podium, if you ask me. Certainly they might be trying to not use so much tire here. What do you reckon?
I think it's been a little bit easy this time. They probably gained their positions with a little less fighting and just a bit more chaos. Again, though, that might have caused them to use up their tyres a bit, and it looks like Fisher's already having flashbacks to last race. He's coming up in fourth, he's looking for that podium, and he's doing so very fast, and he's been right there with Crozon this entire time. So again, he's probably hoping for a similar situation to last time and seeing if he can get back on that podium. I mean, 2 podiums for Fisher would probably make his day, as he does look for it here. And we see on our screens right now Twodzidlo fighting Abelardo, just really trying to keep up close.
Oh boy, well, back to 6 is Chris Rubliar, continuing to fall. Started 3rd, went back to 5th on the initial start, now back to 6th as Villa gets by him for the final spot inside the top 5. And I was going to say about Twodzidlo, do they press a little extra this time, maybe? Do they try and go for an early move here? I reckon they might, considering they know that Abelardo will sort of gap them in the long run, perhaps due to tire degradation, perhaps. So maybe Twodzidlo kind of goes for it here a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say now is definitely the time to make a move, although, again, probably seeing how this race started, you do want to be careful about it and look for the right moment, but I'd say it is now or never for Twodzidlo or Abelardo, because, I mean, we saw last race, it wasn't a huge gap, but it was a gap, and once it does start building to 1 second, it is going to be impossible to make a move. So I do agree with you there. I think now is the time to do it, as we do watch Buczek trying to maybe look for a move on Rubliar. Rubliar, maybe he's the one struggling with the tyres. He's not had a great race, dropping from that 3rd podium position all the way down to 6th currently, and he is having to hold off Buczek, who is looking a lot more comfortable and a lot more stickier through these corners, which is what's really important here at Zolder, is you do just stick to the track and try and really prioritise those exits. So let's see what happens with Buczek as he comes onto another straight against Rubliar. As for exits, both look very similar, and Rubliar is, I think, going to manage to hold on to it here, but not an ideal situation for him so far.
Well, we talked about Rins Crozon starting dead last. Keep in mind, Daly started next to dead last himself in the 197 BMW. He is up to 16th place. He was running 25th in the first race, ended up finishing 21st, all things considered. That was a good run. Well, he's up to 16th, just in front of Rins Crozon. Both of them coming through the field very nicely. We have 3 cars in the pit lane, the 818, the what appears to be the 20 car, and the 777, who are sitting in the pit lane, and they have been doing for the past 5 to 10 minutes, which leads me to believe they will not be rejoining the race for the duration. 15 minutes, and it has been fast and furious, folks. If you missed the first 15 minutes, I don't know what to tell you. Shame on you. You're gonna have to watch that on repeat, because that was one heck of a first 15 minutes. There was a lot going on. We were struggling to keep up. You know who wasn't struggling to keep up? Our broadcaster Christian, who's doing an absolutely fantastic job. Tobias Hopner here trying to get a place, and we flash back to the earlier incident where Jake Boswell gets turned and so many others. This, of course, on lap 1 or 2. And that was at the hairpin at the far side of the track, where some of the cars got a lot of damage. And that's where a lot of those pink and blue cars are now outside the top 20. That'd be the reason for it. Here is Jake Boswell, who has fought their way back to 22nd place. 300 in front of him, BMW on BMW. And, oh, you just got to feel bad for the 12. Calandrino was one of the first people to get involved in an incident here in this race, Tim. And it's just such a frustrating thing, a recovery drive sometimes.
It is frustrating, but as long as you're still driving, that's really the best you can ask for if you do get in an accident. You mentioned earlier the 3 cars in the pits, and I think that's probably a case of just too much damage to really be able to do anything else with the car there. So as we come into Hoopner here, who I think is defending against McConnell, who's looking for a move, but a little bit too far back now as they come into the hairpin. And I think it's been a very tough race for everyone so far. A lot of defending, and I mean, if the drivers were paying attention to what's happening around them earlier, they're probably all very scared right now about what is going to happen if they do defend a little too hard. So we've got a lot of cars here just trying to sort of make up positions on track. A lot of people have fallen back. Surprisingly enough, the Aston Martins that were so prevalent and doing amazing back at Imola have been really struggling here at Zolder, and they are split up massively throughout the field. There's Fisher's obviously doing God's work up there in 4th place, really trying to close the gap as we now cut back to the fight between the BMWs at the beginning. It looks like Torzillo is keeping that gap really fine, but still hasn't managed to really find any moves yet. Realistically, as this race goes on, Jesse Lee, do you think we're going to see a move here, or do you think it's just going to be a case of these two lapping around as quickly as they can at the front?
Well, I think Torzillo needs to try something here. Just get a little bit closer. Almost there is the 373. Just get a little bit closer, quite like that, and take it to a chicane and maybe try and throw him off, stuff it down the inside, sell him a dummy, go up the outside, something. But he's doing a great job as Torzillo now, just living in the mirror. And that it's going better this race than it did the first race, but I got a feeling we're going to see the same thing we saw last race, where the 579 is going to drive away a little bit, and the clock's got to be ticking for Torzillo right now, as this is the 10th place position, and Christopher Streppen just has not had a break here today. Started inside the top 5 and all the way back into 10th. Well, considering how bad it could have been for the driver of the 747 for Streppen Motorsport Chevrolet, I suppose it could have been a lot worse. He is still in the top 10 after all, in 9th place, as he has now gotten by. Did he get by Ertan there, or did somebody else fall out? Yeah, it was Ertan, I'm being told by our broadcaster. So 9th place for the Chevrolet, and Buchek here still trying to get around Roubliard. What do you reckon? Oh, he might actually get it done here as he goes over the curb a little too much. The Audi not handling it quite as good as the front engine cars will do, but cannot quite get the overlap and has to fall back in line. But take it easy there, as has to go defensive now as Buchek, because Villa's there now. A mistake by Roubliard almost leads to Buchek being passed for 6th there.
And I'm surprised that move didn't stick, really. I mean, once Roubliard went off, it looked like it was a done deal. And now Villa is here and Buchek is to defend against him. There's a lot of things happening right now on your screen. So try and keep up as we see Villa right up Buchek here, looking for a move maybe into the chicane. And it looks like he's going to opt out to stay safe and just prioritize that exit, which I think is what you need to do here, really. Just stay safe and try and get those moves done cleanly on the straight rather than dive bombing into the corner. And it looks like Roubliard, who had fallen 6th, has managed to gain some places back and is, well, he's keeping it in 5th, as we cut now to Daly, who is fighting for 14th here. Hoopner is currently holding the 14th spot, and it's a freeway fight between McGonigal and Daly, and all 3 of them are just taking the corners easy. I guess there's, again, no dive bombs, which I think is the smart choice, it must be said, as all 3 cars are just waiting for that opportunity. But McGonigal is right there and really looking for a move. Daly has been doing really good. He's got a great exit here out of the corner, so we may see coming into this next straight. If he can nail this final corner going into it, it looks like Hoopner might have got the better end of the stick there, McConnell as well. So, Daly is looking for a move up the inside. There is a chicane coming up, so he needs to do it quickly if he wants to secure that. It looks like he's mostly through, and there is a little bit of contact, but nothing too bad as both cars do manage to keep it together here. Daly, the acceleration though, is just managing to stick ahead, and he has completed the move, I believe, as he is now through McConnell.
Well, Daly continuing to come up through the field, top 15. That sounds really nice in the ear, doesn't it? Considering you started sub 30, or excuse me, outside the 30, not sub 30, but top 15, looking really good, and still time to get more places. 9 minutes to go, as again, could be a race by McConnell here. Oh, taking him all the way to the inside and daring him to go there. McConnell does, but it's not going to be quite enough. You're talking about contact between these two. Even if there was substantial contact, I'm pretty sure neither one of them would even report it. That's just sort of how they race each other. And it's like, you know, if somebody you don't like makes contact with you, you're going to report it. But if you're your friends, you're probably going to let it go.
Yeah, and it wasn't a lot of contact. And to be honest, with GT4s, there's always a bit of contact there. They are very aggressive cars, and you do really have to throw them around when defending and attacking. So I doubt anything will come of that contact. It was just a little bit into a chicane. Maybe that was what helped Daly get through, but again, I don't think there's anything that really requires a report as we hark back to this race for first place, and towards Zillow still not finding the way through, and he's really trying, and he's only got 8 minutes left to make a move, and I'm not sure if he's going to do it. He needs to do it now rather than later, otherwise he's going to lose that chance.
He's not fallen off. That's the important thing for me, Tim. He hasn't towards Zilla. He's still there. You know, he's still right there with him. This time last race, he was adrift by 1.5, 1.7 seconds. That hasn't happened here. So either towards Zilla has figured something out, or Abeladze has done something different with his car, or he's being a little bit more conservative. Who really knows? But Zidlo is still right there behind him, and this is a marked improvement for the second place driver from a race ago. I still have to say, I feel like a move is coming. Juraj Svinček. What happens here? Contact, I imagine. Indeed, and a spin for Svinček, and the Chevrolet using the old punt to pass there. But that was Verstappen, but you'll notice Verstappen is back behind Svinček now.
Yeah, I think he did give that back straight away, and as we saw in the replay, two cars also managed to sneak through there. I believe it would have been Lawrence and Ertan in the KTM, although I might be wrong, but I think Verstappen did massively back out there. We saw all the cars come through on the corner, so a dirty move. I don't think it was malicious, so I'm not really sure if we can call it a dirty move as such, but a bit of contact, it happens on the track, and what's important is that Verstappen gave that position back and understood that, okay, this wasn't exactly fair of me, I'll give him another go at it. So I imagine Svensek's priority now would just be holding him off, as we see Buczek making a move on Rubilar, maybe not.
Oh no,
and he's spun him out.
Was that Villa spinning out Buczek there? And that's such a helpless place. So let's see what happens here. That's the 933. Oh dear, and that's a helpless feeling for Buczek there, stuck in the middle of the track. That's what caused the hairpin incident earlier. And that was
he wasn't
Villa
facing the right way there at all. He's down in 13th, which honestly might be kind of a win here for Buczek. That was not an ideal situation. Spun out on a hairpin and facing the wrong way with more cars coming around the corner. It was definitely going to be hard to recover there. And again, I have to say, not malicious at all. It's just one of those incidents that happens on the hairpin.
There's got to be a move, Tim, here coming, right? Like, Torzillo is setting him up, right? He's been following him for 25 minutes. He's been probing for weakness. He's monitored how he's taking corners. He's got to make an attempt at some point. By the way, we were talking about two drivers having professional courtesy and letting stuff go, contact go. Pretty sure that previous one is going to show up in the report list this week.
I agree. I think it might show up in the reporting list, but coming back to the conversation quickly, it's Hoopner actually picks up a drive-through, I imagine, again, for track limits down in 14th there. That will be him yet again dropping back in the race. But I agree, Zidlo, I think, has really been sizing up Abiladze for this entire race. He's been sitting there, he's been saying, look, I can keep up with you, and I'm waiting for you to make that mistake. Give me that position. And I also have to hand it to Abiladze, who's just gone, no, this is my place, and I'm going to keep it. So I agree. I think Zidlo now will be looking for that move, and he is going to get a little bit more desperate in this last 4 minutes. But I think both cars have done a phenomenal job. Abiladze's had an amazing defense, and Zidlo has had such good patience, especially in a race where there's been so many incidents so far. So I agree. I think coming into these last 4 minutes, he's going to make a move at some point, and I'm excited to see it when it happens. He is, you can see on these straights, he's dipping his nose out to the inside. He's saying, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And at some point he's going to make that move, and Abiladze is going to need to be ready.
He absolutely is. Hopner has brought the number 19 to the pit lane. I want to bring something up real quick. Oh my goodness. Torzillo has gotten themselves a drive-through penalty for exceeding track limits. I repeat, there are no RCI stewards for Thursday GT4 action, so any penalties you see is ACC assigned, and a drive-through penalty 9 times out of 10 means that they have extended track limits one too many times. You get 3 track limits warnings, and on the 4th time of asking, you get a drive-through penalty, and that's exactly what's happened here. Now, he will have an option here. He can come down pit lane and serve that, or it will be a massive time penalty at the end of the race, I'm pretty sure is how that works. So you have 3 laps. There's not 3 laps left in the race, so he might take a time penalty here.
Hear me out.
The time penalty, yes.
I was going to say, I think the time penalty is 30 seconds, so is it smart to do what he's doing and just stay out? Because if you ask me, you're going to lose a lot more than 30 seconds in the pit lane. So if I were him, I'd be taking the gamble and staying out. And with such a big gap between them and the rest of the pack, I think it's the better choice here, honestly.
My favorite thing would be to do that. Take whatever penalty hurts you the least. And he still wants to make this pass regardless. Zidlo would love for Abiladze to get a drive-through as well to make this a fair fight. I don't know if that will happen. That would be very high drama indeed. But completely running off the track now is Zidlo trying to get every ounce of performance out of the car. He's already got a drive-through. What does it really matter? As Minnow Crozen is likely going to get 2nd place. Fisher's going to get 3rd place. And very quickly, I just want to talk about Martin Lawrence. Very quiet, didn't have a qualifying. Oh, he is going to come into the pits. Torzillo is going to come down the pit lane. That will release Abiladze, who will take the white flag here. And we are on the final lap of the race. Minnow Crozen will come through. Garrett Fisher will come through. Rubliar will come through. And Villa and the like. I was just going to say about Martin Lawrence for the perseverance of the 171. This is the Martin Lawrence that I know inside the top 10. Hasn't had the best luck in some of the RCI races that I've covered, but it's nice to see them back in the top 10, and especially in a race where it could have been very different considering where he particularly started. Garrett Fisher does cycle out into 3rd, looking like a double podium. Oh! Contact there between Rubliar and Villa. I believe this is a previous incident. Yeah, this is Vasiliev getting off the track there a little bit. Here we go. This is Chris Rubliar. And Villa going for a gap that just sort of, going for a gap that just disappeared there.
He does need to be careful because I believe that is the 2nd incident, because he was the one that spun out and spun the other car in the hairpin before. So he does need to be careful here. He's going to start picking up those post-race penalties from the stewards. But again, a very high performer in both well, in all 4 races that we've had now, he's finished fairly high as we see the
Oh, he's
cars
going
come
for
across
it.
the line.
Sorry to interrupt him. He locked it up. Did Garrett Fisher trying to get in front or at least beside Minnow Crozen? It's not going to happen. Abeladze is going to come across the line for a double win in round 2. Minnow Crozen second, Garrett Fisher third. Villa Lawrence will be your top 5. Excellent stuff here. Excellent scenes in this championship, completely different than when we started.
And Ertan will now come across the line in 6th place. What a race from that KTM. He was already looking strong in qualifying. He was looking brilliant in race 1. And I mean, race 2 has just gone his way, really, hasn't it? He'll be more than happy with 6th place, as I'm sure Abeladze will be with the double win. So, a bunch of interesting results coming through now. Fisher, again, will be taking 3rd place. So, a lot of repeat performances here as we see more and more cars will be coming across the line. Well, I know the KTM's a surprise to you because you were saying earlier you weren't sure how it's going to perform, but just how much of a surprise do you think that KTM is?
I'm reasonably surprised as apparently some cars have gambled on fuel and maybe running out coming to the line. I'm reasonably surprised. Not an Adalbert Ertan, he's a world-class driver, but that KTM, you have to manage the curves. It's not the most stable of racing platforms. It's definitely not fast in a straight line, and it does take the turns pretty decently indeed, but still an excellent result. 6th place for Ertan. Zidlo does end up still finishing in the top 10, so not a complete disaster, all things considered, for the 373 BMW. Svinček 9th, Verstappen, for all the trouble that they had in this race, inside the top 10. Wajna just outside of that, and the results confirmed. Jordan Daly, by the way, an amazing 13th place.
That is a phenomenal drive from Daly. As you said, he started really close to the back there and he has climbed through all those positions to take home 13th. And I was going to say as well, Zidlo bringing home 8th. I did say before I'd have personally taken the 30-second penalty, but now I'm not so sure. I think maybe that pit lane was a bit shorter than 30 seconds, and I do think taking the drive-through was the right call, although I do want to know the thought process that went through there to leave it an extra lap. Maybe they just needed that much time to really calculate where they were going to come out. So not the best result, but certainly not the worst that it could have been, especially with these drive-throughs that we've been seeing. They've been really pushing people back into the mid-pack. So I'm sure we've got a lot of happy people here right now.
Well, we have a lot of happy people in the chat. Some from the race. Gert Fisher joining us saying 2 great races, just like they had at Imola. Good racing. Jordan Daly excited about his 13th place finish. You love it when you celebrate a 13th place finish like it's a win. I love that. It's my favorite thing about it. Excellent racing. Thank you all for being with us here today on RCI TV. If you did like the broadcast, why not like, subscribe, hit the bell, and join us next time. I'll be back with you tomorrow night for the Friday Endurance Championship, and look forward to seeing you there. I'm supposed to have Josh with me in tomorrow night's race. We'll see about that. And on Saturday night, for those of you that stay up a bit late, we have Saturday Night Owl Racing coming at you. Myself and Ryan Mawson on that call as well. And Tim, it's absolutely been a pleasure working with you. And well, hopefully order restored next week with Josh back in the booth.
Yeah, hopefully. And it's been a brilliant couple of races today. So thank you very much for coming and joining us at such short notice. But I mean, I hope you enjoyed it here. You said it was your first time actually commentating properly on a GT4 championship. So I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, it was 2 brilliant races. And I mean, that second one, it was very aggressive. But you don't ask for much better fighting than that. With so many accidents, I'm sure the stewards are going to be having a lovely long week of post-race penalties there.
Well, in 1 week's time, Josh will be with Tim and Christian to bring you the call of round 3 of the RCI GT4 Championship in Season 4, races 5 and 6 coming at you in 1 week's time. We do thank all of our partners, Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP for everything they do for us. Get 25% off your driver coaching using our discount code RCI Coaching D61. You can find that and much more in the description. And also, while you're down there, why not join our Discord? Sign up for an upcoming series. We have splits from esports pros right down to beginners just starting out. And we even have some drivers that race on controllers as well. So don't feel like that's a limitation you have either. Thank you all for being a part. It's been a pleasure to be here. I've been Jesse Lee. I have been here with Tim and Christian. Until tomorrow, we'll see you next time.